Opens the December 6, 2023 meeting of the Mashpee Planning Board here at Town Hall in the Coit Room, 16 Great Neck Road North, Mashpee, Mass. I welcome everyone here tonight. The time is 7 p.m. We're being broadcast live on local channel 8 and streamed live on the Town of Mashpee website at www.mashpeema.gov/channel-8 asterisk. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, approval of the minutes of November 15th, 2023 meeting. Had a chance to look at them?
Yes, I motion to approve as written.
You have an issue with something?
No, I made a motion to approve them as written.
Oh, I didn't.
Sorry.
Excuse me, I didn't turn up my hearing
I usually
aid.
listen and make sure, Mary, I said where Mary
Does
wants me.
everyone wish to approve the minutes?
Second.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Approved, unanimous. Public comment. You can comment on anything but the public hearings we're having tonight. Just come up and give your name and your address, please.
It's not on any of the hearings.
Oh, good, there we go. Gotta fill out my chart. Good evening, Lynn Barbie, 73 Surf Drive. I'm also the chair of the Human Services Committee. And I just wanted to make a comment about the housing production plan. I understand that there are some meetings with stakeholders to give feedback on the plan, and I would just like to be included in one of those meetings. So
Okay.
hereby announcing that I am available and would like to be included in one of those meetings, because I've been paying a lot of attention to housing from various perspectives, and I think it's a very important document. And I guess I was curious that it seems like it's going to be done by December 18th, and I'm just wondering if that's giving time for some other public feedback. Thank you.
Do you want to comment on that, Town Planner?
Sure, I can, if you'd like.
Emily?
The stakeholder meetings that are occurring right now are generally afforded to regulatory boards, select board, planning board, conservation commission, board of health, as well as the development community, really to determine whether or not our proposed strategies that have been brought forth through the process are feasible. We don't want to put actions in the plan that are infeasible.
Correct.
From the mind of our regulatory entities and the mind of the development community in Mashpee. Those should wrap up this week or the following. I can't recall exactly the schedule. And so relative, I was going to make this my update. I did have an opportunity to speak with the Cape Cod Commission just relative to our grant program. Because we've always been in a time crunch on this plan. They are willing to accept the draft as the deliverable to close out the grant program. So if we are unable or unsatisfied with the length of community or public engagement and comment period for the draft plan, we don't need to feel as restricted as we did before getting that opinion from the Cape Cod Commission. So I would like to make the comment period inclusive but also efficient. So what I will say, Lynn, is we will make sure that the comment period on the draft plan is substantial enough, whereas you'll have enough time to consume what is proposed and enough time to provide comment should you have any.
So you're not going to put me on a stakeholder list?
It would be very unique. No, I don't think
if
so.
I could
I will speak
comment-
to the consultant
Yeah,
and
if I
whether or
could
not
just
if that's advisable.
comment on that, Madam Chair. Lynn is the chair of the Human Services Committee.
I understand that.
And they are the de facto affordable housing department for the town. That's why I think she should be, and she's been going to all the affordable housing committee meetings like I
I do.
And she is a chair of the human service committee, so, but
Well, I-
anyways.
Well, I could advise you when their next one is.
Okay.
Would you accept that?
Yes, thank you.
And would you be continuing this to January, basically, then, if
Well-
you've gotten?
I will provide a more robust update under town planner reports. And
Okay, very
Yeah,
good.
there's a
Thank you.
sentence.
Anyone else care to give public comment? Let's see, is there a mosquito on that wall back there? Okay. All right, we have time before the public hearing, so we'll go to something else.
Oh.
We want to go to vote on new business to set special joint meeting on Monday, December 18th, 2023, with the Select Board to review and adopt the updated housing production, or do you want to do that when you do your update?
No, I'd like to discuss that specifically. I just kind of touched on our kind of more relaxed timeframe, although I don't want to extend the review period and, I guess, editing period for a period of time that would be inefficient. But if we need more than one meeting jointly to do that, that's acceptable, the commission has told me. So I would like to ask you to set the joint meeting to begin that review. And if subsequent to the closure of that meeting, the draft plan requires edits or updates that are more substantial than could be captured in a condition, then we should have a second meeting at a minimum. And we'll know what that looks like when the draft plan is totally completed, which should be within the next week or two.
Okay, so do we need to do a motion on that? For the
We have
vote?
to, do you want a motion or discussion first?
Is there discussion, any discussion?
I think that I wouldn't vote for a plan that didn't have a comment period. So I think that we should meet. This plan is going to end up being pretty thick. So I think we should meet jointly with the Board of Selectmen to start reviewing it. But I'm going to vote no unless there's a comment period.
There'll absolutely be a comment period.
Okay. So I think that we should meet to review the plan, but not meet to adopt.
Understood.
Do you know what I mean?
Need to review but not adopt with
Right.
the Select Board.
So I'm available December 18th. It's a Monday.
That's their regularly scheduled meeting.
So we would meet at the regular time.
6:30.
That's what's been proposed, and that's what I've discussed with the chair of the
Okay.
select board.
All those
I'm
willing
available.
to vote to have the special joint meeting with the Select Board on Monday, December 18th, to review but not adopt the updated housing production plan. Second?
I move that.
Okay. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Who seconded it?
Yes.
I don't know, I thought you said
Michael.
you did.
Oh, I made the motion. Who was the second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I'm an aye. What else was I gonna say? And I'm available like a little early. Do you know what I mean? Like if they want to start a little early, sometimes they start early on affordable housing topics. So I'm available a little bit early.
Shall I ask them for 6 PM start time?
I'll have them call you at 2 o'clock.
Like I would say 6 o'clock. It's just, I've been to all these meetings and the consultant has done sections of the plan.
Correct.
And the presentation is like 15 minutes at each, so I'm assuming the presentation is gonna be a healthy 30 minutes and then we're gonna wanna talk about it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, why don't we just keep it at 6:30 and let it go as long as it has to,
Okay.
as long as they're willing to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. 7:10. It is now 7:10, the time has arrived, and I open the public hearing on Southworth Mashpee Properties LLC, which hearing is continued from 8/2/23.
Good evening. For the
Let
rec-
me read the public notice, Jack,
Sure.
first. Thank you. Pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, the Mashpee Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, March 1, 2023, at 7:10 p.m. at the Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North, to consider an application from Southworth Mashpee Properties LLC, property owner, to modify the Willow Bend Country Club special permit. The applicant proposes to construct a 14-unit, single-family cottage community immediately contiguous to the Willow Bend Golf Course at 275 Quiniquisette Avenue, map 69, block 32. The existing single-family dwelling is proposed for demolition. With these changes, the total unit count for the Willow Bend project would be increased to 287 if the board authorizes the annexation of 275 Quiniquisette into the Willow Bend special permit as allowed. 287 dwelling units is the maximum number of dwelling units authorized under the special permit. All units will be connected to and served by the existing privately owned wastewater treatment plant, which serves the entire Willow Bend project. Party proponent, if you may.
Good evening. For the record, Jack McElhenney, attorney for Southworth Mashpee Properties. With me via Zoom is Matt Eddy, principal in Baxter Nye Engineering and the project site engineer. Since we last met, we have two, I think, significant open issues, gating items, I guess, that we need to discuss and resolve relative to the Cranberry Point project. The first is the bedroom count issue, which is, as everyone knows, the subject of a separate application that we are going to be taking up in a few minutes. I think the other major issue that was holding up progress on this was the concern on behalf of the board that it was unable to make some of the required special permit findings as they relate to the absence of any serious environmental consequences to wetlands or estuarine systems as behalf of the project. And the board indicated its strong desire to wait for some preliminary indications from the Conservation Commission on their review of the project, which is proceeding on a parallel track. As a measure of good faith, Southworth had, I think the last time we were here, we had noted that we had reduced the project scope from 14 units to 12 units. That allowed us to significantly increase the buffer along Quiniquisette Ave to 65 feet. It also resulted in an elimination of a substantial bulk of the wetland impact. And we agreed with the Conservation Commission to take that design, take that concept to full design, engineering and stormwater design through Baxter Nye, so that the Conservation Commission, which has engaged LEC as a peer review expert on behalf of the town, so that they would be reviewing the most current plans. And so we now have a preliminary report back from LEC dated November 16th, which indicates, one, there's still a significant amount of work to be done in terms of regulatory determinations. I think we have to go back out in the field and revisit some flagging issues. But I think the important conclusion for purposes of tonight's hearing is LEC's statement that the project, in their view, does have, quote, significant environmental benefits and, quote, clearly has value. So, our hope is that, again, we recognize it's a preliminary indication, but we're hoping that is a sufficient indication of the direction that this is headed, so that we can move forward with our discussions with the planning board about other aspects of the project. And of course, you know, we recognize that any decision of this board is going to be subject to issuance of a order of conditions from the Conservation Commission. And by way of just to update, our expectation is, and Matt can chime in on this, that we are doing some of the work that LEC requested of us in terms of regulatory compliance analysis. And I think the next conservation meeting is scheduled in January. And, you know, we hope to continue to move forward with that. Again, you know, with the understanding from this board that, you know, we are heading in the right direction with that. So that's an update on where we are on Cranberry Point. Matt can, you know, answer any technical issues. I know we did get comments this afternoon from Ed Pesci. Thank you, Ed. And Matt has gone through those, and we understand the comments. I think they're relatively easily addressed. So I think that's where we stand at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pesci, can you go through these construction plans and tell us about the revisions, the new revisions, the newest revisions?
So there are, good evening, Madam Chair, and members of the board. For the record, especially engineering and consulting engineer for the board. And I think Jack did describe some of the recent changes that have been done. The most striking is the removal of 2 units, the setback, the determination for a 65-foot setback. There actually is another 5 feet of clearance between cottages 1 and 12, so really like a 70-foot setback, as I read this, to the first building. So it definitely gives us more.
Ed, excuse me. Ed, would you tell us what sheet you're looking at so we can all be on the same page?
Sure. It's the best sheet to look at is sheet C3.1.
Okay.
I know that Matt probably has this stuff memorized off the top of his head, the exact list of changes, but there were a number of comments that I made that had revisions of grading, stormwater and net plan stuff, minor things that I brought up today about that, and some issues with regard to groundwater elevation and information that was not included in the original set that has been provided. And pretty much their design changed to allow a little bit of separation between buildings, but again, they deleted 2 buildings to allow some of that between pairs of buildings, I should say, although not a significant difference. And a little bit different impact to the wetlands, as you heard. I did read the LEC report. I thought it was indicative of what we originally thought. My team thought that restoration of the wetlands of the Cranberry Bog area was a net benefit to the region, certainly to the wetland system. I think that's the comment that we have received or seen online via email from Andrew McManus, the conservation agent, as well. But overall, the previous list of engineering review comments that I provided have been addressed satisfactorily. And I think we were waiting for some of these, permit modification issues to be discussed at further length before we went to any more detail on this. But in my opinion, the plans have been properly revised. The drainage analysis was redone and sent to me, sent to all of us, but sent to me for review. It addressed all my previous comments. It is designed for the 100-year storm, and in keeping with current practice. It's also using the NOAA Atlas 14 point-to-point precipitation data, which is reflective of the current climate conditions. So it's using real-time data that NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Agency Administration, is actually using to track the precipitation changes due to climate change. So that's pretty much the state of the art in our business now across the board, and many towns and communities are using that as a basis for the storm event, design storm event analysis, and that's exactly what Baxter now uses. So subject to your question, I really don't have any other detail to go over. I think for the most part, again, they addressed all my previous comments. Many of them were constructability questions, in other words, clarifications for the contractor when we're building it, if we're building, inspected, the types of things that we wanted to clarify. But there's a sufficient amount of detail to do that now, and I don't have any further issues.
Thank you, Ed. Is Mr. Eddy on?
Yes, yeah.
Hi, Matt.
Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Good. Do you have any comments to make?
I don't really have anything to add. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. You know, I can go through just the general layout changes if you would like me to that responded to the planning board comments that we received. I'm going to say probably beginning of the summer, late spring. I did go through those in the prior hearing that we had in June, where I pointed all of those out. As Ed said, I think everything's been addressed, but I'm happy to go through some of those summary items if you'd like me to, or I can just answer any questions that you may have at your preference.
Did you expand the roadway? I thought I remembered that.
Yes, correct. So why don't you, I'll go through those real quick. So, in response to the comments that were made by the board, again, back, I'm going to say it was May timeframe. So we reduced the unit count, as everybody's pointed out here, from 14 units down to 12 units.
Right.
That allowed us to increase the buffer along Quiniquisette to between 65 to 70 feet. The relocation of the wetland impact was a much significant reduction. We increased the road width to 20 feet as the board requested. The shoulders are now 5 feet. We provided a T turnaround, and that was actually reconfigured so that there were no private driveways on the T turnaround. I know there was some concern expressed by some of the board members as to driveways potentially blocking the T turnaround, so that is a standalone T turnaround now. We added no parking fire lane signs on that T turnaround so that there won't be parking there. As Ed pointed out, with the elimination of the couple of units, we were able to space the distance between duplex structures to greater than 20 feet as was requested. We added to the zoning table the overall lawn area, which is a requirement of 35% of lawn area. We're well under that, in the neighborhood of 20%. We updated the turning templates at the entrance for the tower truck entering the site and its maneuvering through the site. We've, Ed reviewed that, and as he stated, he was happy with that revision as well as the fire department. And I think that really summarized the changes that the board had requested at the prior hearing, and we provided those. So I think that hits the high points, and again, happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Does anybody from the board have questions? Mary?
Just regarding Mr. Eddy's report, there's no longer a pathway along Quiniquisette, right, Ed and Matt?
Like a car path along Quiniquisette?
Right.
Is that?
Yes, that's my question.
Yeah, there's no, if that's what your question is, there's no car path along Quiniquisette. I mean, that entire, buffer area off of Quiniquisette is undisturbed other than the entrance in for the main road. And then we still are providing a small forebay area, stormwater forebay area, which is right adjacent to the Quiniquisette layout. That'll be, there's no structures there. That'll be revegetated, et cetera, and as we had expressed previously, and also with conservation, we believe that that's actually, that's a benefit, because what we've done with that is that's allowing us to intercept some of the existing runoff off of 20 Quistit Ave that currently goes directly into that wetland system that's adjacent to the road. And it goes into that road, to the wetland system untreated, so that stormwater forebay allows us to intercept some of that flow and provide some water quality treatment prior to it going into that existing wetland system. So I believe, everybody, within our discussions, agreed that was a benefit. I know Ed and I had discussions on that prior, and I believe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Ed, so you can respond.
No, I agree that is one thing. That wasn't a change, obviously, it's the last set, but that is definitely a change overall, or a benefit overall that's part of the whole design. Absolutely, yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Anyone else on the board have questions?
I don't.
Mike, none?
Matt, on the Quaker River there, the restoration, is that just behind the new development that you're gonna restore, or are you gonna follow it up?
I'm sorry, Dennis, can you start over? I missed the first part of your question.
When they said you're gonna restore Quaker Run, so much of it. Is that just behind the new development, or is it to go over into the golf course?
It's adjacent to, it's the restoration areas that are proposed are the systems, the bogs, existing cranberry bogs that run to the, on the westerly side of the project, so it's directly in along Quaker Run. So again, that's the most significant environmental benefit by removing those active cranberry bogs. Where Quaker Run runs, as you know, right through the cranberry bogs that are currently active and farmed. So that's where the mitigation is targeted, and we're actually providing. There's a scenario of multiple mitigation aspects, but if you look at the total amount of restoration of the bog area as opposed to the amount of wetland fill that is proposed by this project, is actually over a 13-to-1 ratio of 13 times the amount of restoration is being provided versus the amount of actual wetland impact being proposed. So it's a significant, well over the requirements of from a wetland mitigation standpoint, from the impact of the wetlands, would be well over the conservation bylaw requirements, which is 2-to-1, and then the state actually just has a 1-to-1. So again, a significant amount of additional restoration provided, and it's those systems that are along Quaker Run to the west,
Which is shown, Matt, as bog, they're labeled as bog 1 and 2 on sheet B 4.1, among others. There's others that show that.
Yeah, 4.1 or the C 6.0 might be, if you wanted to look at that, that's the master mitigation plan. Yeah, you're correct. That is bog 1 and bog 2.
That's a good one.
And that C 6.0 gives you a good graphic.
Yeah,
Okay.
delineation. Yeah.
It sounds like a pretty good benefit, but at one time we talked about even further up on Quaker Run to maybe try to restore that. I like to keep that an open mind because we're going to be asking for a modification, and I like to keep that an open mind because you're going to ask for a lot of bedrooms. And okay, that's all I say. But the benefits seem pretty good. What you just said, Matt. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I ask, I think Matt Eddy said something about a 13-to-1 ratio. What is that? What is that?
If you look at that C 6.0, the upper right-hand corner is the mitigation calculation table. Mm-hmm. And if you look, I'm zooming in here myself,
There's 2 areas of wetland impact, Matt. You've shown that? Well, there's 3 main areas of wetland impact, some small areas. They're all in blue on that sheet.
Correct. So if you look at, the wetland impact areas are shown in that blue cyan color. There's a very small amount right up next to Quiniquisette Ave, which is just a subject of some minor grading for that stormwater forebay, which is being provided for the water quality treatment for the runoff off of Quiniquisette Ave. There's a small amount of wetland fill at the back of units number 10 and 11. And then we have, so those are what are called ADW bordering vegetated wetlands. Then there is an area over to the east where the Village Green area is. That's a fill of isolated wetland there. And then we have there's a small forest area over behind, so to the west side of the project, over behind cottage number 6. And that's a small isolated wetland there, and we're filling a small portion of that. And so when you add those mitigation areas up, Mary, the total of that acreage for the fill in relation to the amount of bog restoration that's done, that's the 13-to-1 ratio that I'm referring to.
Okay, so I'm on page C6.1, and I see your math chart up to the top right. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, on 6.0, that
6.0.
chart up on the top, yep, and you have, let's see,
So I'm just looking is that a 13-to-1 credit ratio for actual wetlands restoration versus?
yeah, it's if you look at the amount of wetland impact, so the total mitigation, if you look at that chart, there's a line that's labeled total mitigation for the wetland impact.
Okay.
We have, trying to find the
Is that where it says
exact number here,
4.02?
sorry, for the wetland area.
I don't see it.
Is that the 65,
So the total, yes, thanks, Ed, yeah. The total wetland impact area, which is those 4 areas I just described, is 6,516 square feet. We're providing 2.03 acres of mitigation. So 2 acres, 43,000, so that's about 86,000 square feet. 88. It's actually 88,348, that's the exact number. So 88,000 square feet of mitigation via restoration of the bogs, as opposed to the 6,000 and change wetland impact. And again, Mary, that's where just dividing the mitigation by that impact number, that's that 13-to-1 ratio. So it's like just as an example, let's just say from a straightforward, if I was dealing with conservation, if you have a wetland impact area, they want it to be mitigated at a 2-to-1 ratio. So if I was impacting 1,000 square feet of wetland, let's say, the Mashpee Conservation Bylaw requires me to mitigate 2,000 square feet of wetland to replicate or restore 2,000 square feet of wetland. So that's your 2-to-1 ratio. Whereas in this case, we're providing that ratio. Let's just say if it was only 1,000 feet, at a 13-to-1, it would be 13,000 feet that we're providing as kind of an analogy. But again, we have about a little over 6,000 square feet of impact, and we're providing about 88,000 square feet of restoration for the bog. And that doesn't include, the other mitigation aspects that are just, that are positive, net benefit just for the environmental aspect is the
runoff.
The forebay that we talked about for the water quality treatment off of Quiniquisette, and then also this taking the existing septic system that's on the existing single-family home out there that's being eliminated, and this entire project, as you know, is being proposed to be tied to the Willow Bend wastewater treatment plant. So there's no septic systems or wastewater discharge at the site. It's sent over to the plant and treated at a much higher level than septic systems do. And again, that's provides a net benefit from a nitrogen standpoint for the wetland systems and surrounding area and the downstream areas.
Matt, how many years would you anticipate, or can you even say, it would take to restore these bogs?
Once the bonds are restored, it's probably, maybe let's just say a 6 month construction process, maybe a little bit less than that. But then from each year, you'll see improvement, but it's probably in the neighborhood of 3 years to maybe even 5. But, in that neighborhood of where you really, see the wetland system, bouncing back and, being fully established. So yeah, it definitely takes a few years for it to establish itself. Like with any mitigation that's done. I mean, typically with conservation, anytime we do any type of mitigation, we have to do a 3-year monitoring of that mitigation to make sure that there's survivability. The plants may, it'll take time to establish, et cetera. So yeah, it's a multi-year process for that for the mitigation to take hold, if you will. And if there's anything that needs to be addressed during that monitoring period, it is. We've talked about with conservation that we'll put up a performance bond for the full value of the
That's where I was going with it.
mitigation restoration to make sure that everything is proper. And I can see maybe possibly for this project that the monitoring period might be extended from 3 years, it might be 5 years for this.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
I do, but not for them, just in general, so when you get to that point.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
What's this wetland going to look like in the end? And was any
Again, the goal is that it will restore itself to a naturalized wetland system. I don't have them in front of me, but if you may recall, I know it's a while ago, it may even be a year ago, I'm going to say that I had provided some general sample pictures, if you will, from what a bog looks like before it is restored, and then the restoration of those systems after the restoration has occurred, and a few years have passed, and the system has restored itself. Evan, I don't know if you probably have them in the file at some point. You might not have them at your fingertips, but we could, I could resubmit those to you. But it'll look like a natural wetland system with a stream running through it. It'll be entirely naturalized. I mean, it'll look like it was, prior to the cranberry farming.
okay? And
I think, Madam Chair, that Mr. Eddy should resubmit those.
yeah,
Should read what?
Resubmit those, he gave us like
The sample
a
pictures, yeah.
summary of
Oh, yeah.
wetlands restorations, I don't know, Matt, have you met Dale Oakley yet?
I'm sorry, have I met who?
That, the gentleman that asked you the question is our newest board member, Dale Oakley, who works in the field.
Yeah.
But wasn't on the board when you first gave that information.
Okay, I met you at the previous hearings, but yeah, we can resubmit those and provide additional follow-up information as needed on that. Yep.
okay, thank you.
All right. So, the question is, where do we go now? Shall we?
I have comments about that, if I may,
Okay.
or do you want to go to somebody else?
Well, I'd like to make a decision here whether we're going to continue this matter to December 20th, because we have some more information to get. We have to go on to our next, oh my goodness.
Do you want to, can we open up both hearings at the same time?
I was going to suggest that the board, at the very least, continue this
I would
hearing till
continue
a
this.
time later in this meeting, because I think it's critical you address the questions that are outstanding pertaining to the other application.
Yes.
And so whatever discussion or decisions, if any, are made relative to that upcoming public hearing will inform, I think, more the next steps for this current application. So I would suggest accepting a motion to continue this matter until
Later tonight?
later tonight, and let's address the next public hearing.
Do we have to give a definite time for that?
Yes, why don't, for now, you
So the
continue that
So
until.
the answer to the question is no, we can't have both opened at the same time.
Well, I'm uncertain, so in the event of my uncertainty, why not just continue till a time certain
I
later.
don't think it's wise to have both open at the same
Okay.
time, 'cause it's two different issues.
Okay.
And if the first issue don't pass, this one ain't.
So we'll have to continue it,
Why not for now and say until 8:05?
okay, motion to
So be.
continue.
So be.
So be,
Second.
second. Hey,
Is that,
yes,
is that enough time? Is that too much time?
Yeah, we can continue. if
That's
we have
25 minutes.
what time, 8:05?
to. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we kind of missed this time here.
Was the motion made, seconded, and voted on?
Yes, it
We
was.
didn't
It
vote
wasn't
on
voted on.
You did not vote?
Nobody voted.
Nobody voted. Aye.
Dale?
Aye.
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 Okay, 8:05 it is. The 7:20 hearing has passed, but we're here now. Do I open it up at 20 of 8?
Oh, well,
You just read the notice.
read the public hearing notice, yes.
Just keep opening it up.
Public hearing notice pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, and the Town of Mashpee zoning bylaws, Section 174-24C9. The Mashpee Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, June 21, 2023, at 7:20 PM at the Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North, to consider an application from Southworth Mashpee Properties LLC property owner to modify the Willow Bend Country Club special permit. This application requests that the existing condition in the November 1991 special permit modification decision affirming the limit of the total number of bedrooms within the Willow Bend project area to 853 be amended. Before I call the party proponent, I need to tell the board and go through, give a brief summary of the correspondence that's included in the packet, and also give you a chronology of events around this correspondence. I don't think the papers are exactly in order, but I want to give it in chronological order. On July 31st, 2023, we got a letter, or Town Council Pat Costello received a letter from Attorney Donald Pinto representing Southworth Mashpee LLC Properties. In his letter, he states that the purpose is
No,
to...
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, but Dennis is not in the room.
Oh,
I think we need to wait for
I
Dennis to come
certainly,
back.
I didn't
I'm
even
so
see that, thank
sorry.
you.
I'm always counting. Who's at the... He was quiet.
It's like standing in
I'm
the
like-
elevator with a stranger with no elevator music.
I don't want
He's
to
not
know.
going to be happy that no one even realized he left.
I
don't have eyes in the
did.
back of my head.
I did.
Matt, while it's quiet and I have the opportunity, I just wanted to thank you for assisting Carol Souza on the Willow Circle lot. She was very satisfied, and I'm appreciative.
Good, good. I'm glad that all worked out.
Thank you.
So I'd start again.
You have to let me know when you're leaving.
Oh, I gotta go.
My head is turned away
Called
from
old
you.
age.
I know, I was so, the Mullen rule and
Yes,
all that.
I'm sorry.
All right, well, the letter was from Donald Pinto, July 31st, and basically, he wanted to open a constructive dialogue on the legal issues the planning board has raised with respect to the November 1991 special permit modification on the 853 bedroom limit. The next thing that happened was July 31st, 2023, we got an email from town manager to town council expressing his concern that the July 31 meeting, a letter from attorney Donald Pinto to town council was possibly would usurp the planning board's authority, and just wanted some clarification from town council. August 22nd, 23, I attended a Zoom meeting with town planner, town council, who asked me to be there, attorney Donald Pinto, Jack McElhenney, and I believe it was Troy Miller was there as well. At the Zoom, attorney Pinto outlined his arguments in the July 31st letter, relating to the Willow Bend special permit modification. And town council stated that he would formally request that the Mashpee Planning Board go into executive section to discuss the merits of Attorney Pinto's legal arguments. The board met on September 6th. I don't have any information on that. But September 20th at Planning Board, it was not brought up at September 6th. September 20th, Planning Board met, and we all agreed that we would not go into executive session unless town council provided the board with a written explanation to justify the action. On September 21, a letter from town manager Rodney Collins to me as planning board chair, in which he stated he was aware of the Pinto letter, he knew about the Zoom meeting, and the email from planning board member Mary Wagon, who expressed concerns about ex parte communications at the Zoom. Mr. Collins did express concern about the transparency of the process, and then he concluded his letter by stating there would be no executive session, as, you know, this was premature, we hadn't made any decisions on the board, and he would not have, or would request we not do that. I wrote a memo to the board on October 18th, and I wrote it because of my appearance there, which could have been a violation, open meeting violation. But I was there at the behest of town council, and I was asked to be present. I listened to Attorney Pinto's recitation of his legal arguments, the July 31st letter. The only time I recall speaking at all was when I affirmed town council's opinion or interpretation of the 853 bedroom cap, that it was about a density limitation as a function of zoning and not anything to do with the wastewater capacity, wastewater treatment capacity. Absolutely no negotiations took place, and I can assure you, as a former officer of the court, that nothing resulted from the August 22nd Zoom meeting has biased anything that I understand about Southworth's application and my duty to act impartially. At this time, I recognize the party proponent.
Hey,
Yeah, it's you, Mr. Macklin.
Thank you. Again, this is, as I mentioned, the second gating item as we see it to moving forward with the Cranberry Point project. You know, this issue of the bedroom count came up many months ago at this point, as we all know. And we have been struggling since that time to find a resolution of it. Thank you for the chronology. I'm aware of some, but not all of that. I simply would state at this point that you have our legal position on the July 31st letter, and I think we have a fundamental disagreement with the board, perhaps, about the enforceability of that 1991 condition in our mind. And I think the documents bear this out. I've provided many, many papers on this, that bedroom count number was tied to the capacity of the sewage treatment plant as it existed in 1987, as it exists today. That's never changed. That's where that number came from. The regulation limiting us to that from the DEP perspective has been modified or waived for the past 15 years. And our view is that we are therefore in compliance with the terms of our permit. We want to push through this. We want to resolve it, but we want to resolve it in a way that allows us to go forward. And that's, you know, our position at the moment.
All right. Planning board comments. We're talking about the 853. You want to speak first, town planner?
if you'd like, I do want to present a few questions to the planning board, really just for the purpose
Okay, why don't you do that, and then we'll
framing
have
your
comments.
discussion tonight.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to the memo I wrote to you on August 2nd. That was my last update relative to our best estimates of the existing number of bedrooms within the project area. I've discussed that with the applicant, it's probably months ago at this point,
Just a minute,
Jack.
make sure everybody has the memo, August 2nd, 2023.
It's right there, Michael. It's
It
on
was,
top of the
um,
calendar.
We didn't get it in our written
Okay.
packet, but it's, okay,
Yeah,
you got it.
I got it.
And so
Have it,
just.
Dale?
Yep.
Okay, okay, good.
So just for the purposes of relaying some of the information provided in it, early estimates showed a much more inflated existing count of bedrooms. I think that was in around 995, as indicated in my memo. And that original estimate included 4 streets that are actually not subject to the Willow Bend special permit. And that is Pleasant Park Drive, Herringold Road, Shoestring Bay Road, and Teal Circle. That constitutes 140 bedrooms in, according to the assessor's records. So the 995 minus the 140 bedrooms is 855. So my best estimate using assessor's data is 855. I've discussed that estimate with Jack before. I believe their estimate's a little bit higher. They probably have real-time data. The assessor's data tends to lag by at least one fiscal year, calendar year. But the questions I really want to pose to the board to frame your discussions and eventual deliberation on this really pertains to the following. And there are 3 questions. And so you'll note in number 2 of my memo that there are currently homes in the Willow Bend project area that have a building permit and are under construction. Question to you is, how do we want to proceed with those homes? Meaning, if there's not a modification to accommodate those bedrooms, what do we do? Are you interested in modifying the permit to accommodate those bedrooms?
You're talking about the 16 under question or item
Item
2.
2.
That's correct.
Okay.
So they're not included in that number of 855.
That is correct.
That's right.
That is correct. That is above and beyond the 855. The second question is, there are, at least on August 2nd, 2023, there were 13 properties in the Willow Bend project area that remained vacant and had not yet exercised their development rights as they believe to have them. And so those 13 property owners plus 4 of the 6 lots at Willow Circle had not yet sought permits. Assuming 4 bedrooms for each of those property owners and Willow Circle properties planned for construction, that constitutes 68 bedrooms.
So
Is the
13
board-
Yeah,
So-
just so I understand, because this is a little tricky, the language here.
I noticed that-
13 lots times 4, those are just lots, nothing's done to them at all.
That's correct.
But the owners have, Willow Bend transferred to the owners.
Yes.
It's sitting there.
If the modification were not made of the permit, those property owners would be ineligible for a building permit. So the question is the board interested and willing to modify the permit to accommodate those property owners?
Let me ask you a couple questions, if I may. I'm sure everybody has the same question. When these people closed on these lots, their closing attorney would not have necessarily, actually, I could ask you, Jack, if you were the closing attorney on these lots, would you have shown the buyer, the special permit that said what it said? Would you have alerted them to that?
They would have,
Or they
they
are
would have
not?
seen that as part of their title exam. All those documents are recorded at
Okay.
the registry of the deeds.
Okay, they would have seen it, but would the closing lawyer, have pointed it out to a layperson who's just bought a lot?
Probably not.
No, why would
But it's public information.
I understand that, it's
That's
public
okay.
information.
It's public information, so that's.
I understand,
That can't be
I
argued.
understand that, Mary.
Okay,
You're
thank
charged with knowing it, is what you're saying. Okay, yes.
And so thirdly, I mean, so the first questions pertain to, one, projects under construction in the permit area that have building permits. Question number 2 pertains to projects in the permit area that are, were presumed to have development rights but have not yet sought those permits. The third question would be, you have to answer affirmatively to both questions 1 and 2 to get to question 3, which is there an interest and willingness of the board to further modify the permit to accommodate up to the 287 unit maximum as would be had for Cranberry Point or some other project should Cranberry Point not be feasible for some reason, either through the Conservation Commission's review or the Planning Board's review. So I am interested to have the board discuss and respond to questions 1 and 2 so that you can have a thoughtful discussion relative to question number 3.
So, Madam Chair, may I? Procedurally, a public hearing is closed before board goes into deliberation. I think we've been lax on that, or whatever, flexible on that in the past. I'm not comfortable about being flexible on that, on this project. I'm not willing to do a straw poll, provide any type of opinion at this time until the public hearing is closed. I'm very, very disturbed that there were members of this planning group that felt that there was going to be a lawsuit. And I think we should be extremely strict on how we proceed on this. If people feel that there's a willingness for our decision to be challenged in court, I don't want to trigger anything that's going to be a procedural issue. So I know where you're going, and I think in the past we have done that. We've given kind of like a straw opinion on how we want to go, but I am not expressing any type of opinion until this public hearing is closed. And so I just caution other people. You guys can say whatever you want out loud, but I am not saying my opinion until the public hearing is closed and we formally deliberate.
So with that, if the board agrees with Mary, what more information could be entered into the record to close the public hearing and have that deliberation? Because this matter has to be debated.
I didn't hear you. This matter what?
Should
Has to
be
be
debated.
debated.
We can't
Yes.
leave it open forever.
Right.
So may I? Because I think that we should get the website updated on this. So with the application as amended, if any amendments, any correspondence that's come in written-wise, the correspondence from Attorney Pinto, the town manager, the town planner,
I would, town council.
thank you, town council. The minutes of June 21st, July 5th, August 2nd, September 6th, October 18th. I'm hoping that's it, so that we just have everything in one public place and that the applicant is notified about that.
That's fine. I can amend that.
I think that our next step is to request access to town council, to have a public meeting with him, to ask some questions about our zoning bylaw, section 174-24C9, which is, I think, the zoning that the applicant has referenced. And basically, how a permit is modified, how it's approved with conditions, or denied, and what information does the planning board need to make those findings and decisions.
Right. I don't understand. I wish, Jack, the way you brought this in the first time was from modification to the special permit for the bedrooms. We could have had this all settled if that's how you did it. tonight, I thought you were gonna do that. I mean, all we have to do is give them a modification, either say it's a public hearing modification or a minor modification on the bedroom count. We're not gonna take away the bedrooms from the place. They're already there. I don't want those people that are either gonna build a house or they have some already with permits to lose that right. So, I don't know, we're making a molehill. Not a molehill. This is a modification to the number of bedrooms that if you brought it the first time, I would have voted right then and there. You didn't
I
want it.
think I still have the floor. May I continue? The next thing is, how can the town and the planning board move forward to bring a development which has violated its terms of its special permit back into compliance? And how does that affect the ability of this board to modify that special permit?
We always modified special permits. Since I've
Not
been
that
on-
not that we're in violation.
Can I respond?
Please.
Yeah. First of all, we reject the idea that we're not in compliance with
Yeah.
the special permit. We were asked by this board, or suggested by this board, that we bring a modification for these bedrooms. And we did that in the spirit of moving forward on Cranberry Point. I do believe this has become a mountain made out of a molehill. You've had our legal opinion since July 31, and I want to state for the record here, because I feel this is getting missed. This board is the one that introduced town council into this matter. Members of this board, without any notice to us, met with town council early on, I believe, back in April or May. I think it was the then chair, and solicited an opinion about whether or not we were in compliance with our permit. It was then reported to us that we were not in compliance with our permit, and then we were threatened with door-to-door investigations of our property and the issuances of cease and desist against our activities, including a number of builders that we have sold to. So yes, we have defended ourselves in our legal right. We will continue to do that, but it was not Southworth that initiated the process with town council. That was the board, and as the chair would understand, as a matter of professional courtesy, when a party is represented and obtaining advice on a matter from a council, our council directed his letter to Patrick Costello. There was nothing nefarious about this. I think it's unfortunate that it's been blown into something more, but it was this board who initiated the legal process and sought a legal opinion on this. We're simply responding.
And Jack, when was that? That was before my time, wasn't it?
Mary, when did you meet with Pat Costello? I believe it was in April, because I have an email from May.
I would have to check my notes, because I thought that there was a point when the chair transferred, and that there was a meeting, but I wasn't part of it.
My notes indicate you were, but.
Yeah, I think that there was, I'll have to look. I think that, and I'm not saying that to deny it or anything. I have to look back up my notes, because I think that there was a request to get information from town council, but then I wasn't chair anymore. I was vice chair, and I dropped out of that conversation.
My point is that we did not initiate this process.
Okay, well, I don't believe I had anything to do with initiating this process. So,
I think we had, I'll have to look, because I do have emails, because I think I asked Rodney.
Doesn't matter.
well, whatever.
It's been done, so it doesn't matter who did it.
All right, so where do we go from here?
Well, I'd like to ask some questions of town council. We're not going to go into executive session, but I'd like to talk to him about, I have some serious technical issues about this, and I don't want to go into a pathway that causes a problem for anybody. I want to do it right. This is something that, I don't think anybody in the room here has been involved in something like this.
No, we never have.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I think town council will be able to give us some pretty good guidance.
I don't know, what,
Jack would like to speak.
You know, I would simply say that, I would revisit the history of this. We were asked, suggested to bring this as a separate modification request in the hopes that this would get us beyond that. We have never felt we needed this relief. We believe we're in compliance. And, given where this is going and the tenor, I am now requesting the right to withdraw this modification request for the bedroom count without prejudice. I don't see any utility to this process that we are going through here. So I would ask the board to approve that withdrawal request.
I'd make that motion. The applicant wants to
I
withdraw.
know what he said.
Okay.
but we haven't asked the board how we felt about what Mary was saying yet, so.
I was just told that you can't discuss it, so.
By one member of the board.
No, that's what I recommended, is that we go very formal. People have thought that we're in line for a suit. I've read that in people's correspondence. And if that's how people feel, I don't want to give any straw opinion. I don't want to give any preliminary opinion. I want to wait till we close the public hearing to deliberate and be very formal. That's all. It's the process that the majority of special permit granting authorities follow, is they close the public hearing. I'm not asking for anything extraordinary. Close the public hearing, then you deliberate. That's all.
We're not deliberating right now. We are talking about, we're not deliberating. We're talking about what is within the special permit area. How many, we're just getting a number right now. That's what we're doing, aren't we? Aren't we just getting a number? How many, if we were to do this, how many exceed?
I have no problem discussing
853.
this.
That's what we're discussing right now.
Right, and I do have a question for the project proponent. If they keep their application in with us, I have a question about this to them.
Oh, it's not up to date, as you're going to say, because it's only to August 2nd.
Well, I certainly would want to update it just in the event that there have been any changes between August 2nd and present. That's a fair amount of time that has lapsed. But, I've said my piece. I think there are 3 questions to answer. You should answer them.
I think Mary's
Well, if
suggesting
we-
the answer to those questions involves deliberation, is what I think
Well,
you're
I think we
saying.
need to talk to
So
town
either
council,
either it is or isn't.
and then we need to close the public hearing and then answer those
Oh,
questions.
If I understand this correctly, we do not have to deliberate. All we have to know is what this language means, because paragraph 3 was very confusing. It looks to me like there are a total, if you go down to 4, if you go for the whole thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, you have 987 bedroom count, give or take, if these numbers are accurate. So the question would be, just for us to know, how many bedrooms are we exceeding over the max limit? Which would be how many? 987 minus
130.
130.
Now, I have one question. Is that counting the new project, the new 12?
Go-
That's counting.
called
that?
Yes, it is.
Cranberry
Go down-
Point,
Go
yeah.
down to.
Number 4.
It's assuming
I see that, I
4.
want to make sure.
Yes,
So this
12
assumes,
units times 4.
apologies, this assumes for anything that is unbuilt or hasn't received a permit, it assumes 4 bedrooms per. I know that the Cranberry Point application contemplates 3 bedrooms with the option of 4, so it assumes 4.
All right, so I have a question for the town planner.
Okay.
So this is not up to date.
I haven't re-approached these figures since August 2nd.
Okay, that was.
I don't know if
that was
any
my
additional
question.
permits have
Correct.
been pulled. So I would want to make sure that any
Okay.
new permits haven't come online, and if they have, I'd want them to be accounted
Yeah,
for.
I want to ask a question. If we tonight said, I'm fine with the bedrooms, we're past this, that give them the right now to go to Cranberry Point?
I mean, you would still need to approve that application and deliberate in accordance with the requirements of the
Or we
bylaw.
still could go look at that?
Yes,
Or-
independently.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't see why we can't close public hearing. Mike, I didn't understand. What you asked Mary, I mean, you want.
No, if you go back to the information, I mean, I think these folks were asked, and they went out and they hooked up their treatment plant to other communities. Why the hell do we add those bedrooms into the number? I mean, it gets crazy.
Yeah.
This whole thing is crazy. Because those bedrooms had to be added to the treatment plant, right? They're not included in this.
Correct.
Yet the plant is capacity is well in excess of what they're asking for. I think we're spending a lot of time making a mess of this whole thing, and it could have been resolved, as Dennis said earlier. Let's just go forward. You know, it is a mistake. There was a number that didn't agree with the numbers that were said earlier. Is there any damage anywhere? Not that I'm aware of. Why are we wasting all our time?
Because there was a requirement of this permit.
And we can
that they-
modify it. That's,
why- Right, but why do we put conditions in permits so that they're followed? And this was not by 134 units. So I really want to see what our power is. I want to talk to town council to see what our power is about that and how to get it in. I'm sorry, but people who bought this land had lawyers that looked at this. How this slipped through, I don't know. But
Yeah, but what are you trying to
we
gain?
put
I don't know
a
what you're
cap
trying
on
to
zoning,
gain.
a cap on bedrooms, the town council, when you read the report from Karen, town council feels that that cap on bedrooms was a zoning issue. So we have this special permit, okay? That the minute it's modified, one of those original conditions are modified, okay? What goes away? The ability to expand the project via 1985 zoning. That's what happens.
We gave Jack, I think it was 22 modifications since I've been on the board to Willowbend. I mean, I don't understand where you're going there. We gave,
Because we
But
had
what-
we had.
besides
While
that,
he's talking,
what are you gaining?
He's asking me.
What are you
Karen.
gaining by doing this? I don't know what we're gonna get out of this. They're telling them, cut the bedrooms in half?
So
or-
this lot of land, if it was to be developed without this special permit, it would have to use current zoning, okay? Because they're trying to expand into Cranberry Point with this special permit, they can have, what they're saying is up to 12 units, because they're using 1985 zoning. Who gets to use 1985 zoning? That's ridiculous. It should use current zoning. And the reason why that special permit has a growth mechanism in it is because it froze the bylaw in place. But our bylaw has changed for over 20 years, for over 2 decades. And it's because it's not supposed to go on forever. You're not supposed to be able to use 1985 zoning forever. That's the point. Now, am I right? I'd like to talk to town council a little bit about it. Because I don't want to, I mean, if people have purchased development rights that aren't real, that's a huge thing. People should be very concerned about that. My opinion is for the planning board to stay the heck away from that. And I need to talk to town council about is this in our jurisdiction to do this?
Point of
Sorry.
clarity, one point of clarity.
let me ask you this. Special permit, how did certain areas fall under the orbit of special permit? Everything that we're talking about here is either annex it into special permit or it is in special permit. Is that right?
More or less.
Jack?
Just a point of clarity, and then I'll respond to your question because it's related.
Okay.
you all realize that our current zoning bylaw has a provision in it that allows any multifamily project permitted as an open space multifamily project to expand its project area. You specifically authorized the use and retention of the zoning criteria from then. And so that's what the town has adopted in its zoning bylaw. The town has opted for that. I want to make that very, very clear.
But
It's
on the
state law.
condition, under the condition, our bylaw says you have to maintain all the conditions in that original special permit.
I understand that. I just wanted to
Okay.
make that clear. There's a provision in the
that's-
bylaw that authorizes
This project is not abiding by those conditions. Therefore, they can't use that section of the zoning bylaw to expand annex the land into the special permit. And it's kind of like, why do we have a bylaw if we're not going to follow it? There is no mechanism in the bylaw to go forward on this. I'm very concerned that there are people who have bought land, development rights, that are now in question. I am very, very concerned about this, and I don't want to trip their livelihood
Okay, all
up.
right, you made your point very clearly.
Thank you, sorry.
We have a choice here. To close the public hearing, then my question is, what are we going to do after the public hearing is closed? Are we going to meet in executive section with town council?
No, you would deliberate in public session.
We're
I mean, so your options are accept the applicant's
Yeah.
request to
Except
withdraw.
for you, what you're saying now.
Yes, and I'd like to reaffirm that I'm requesting to withdraw this application
prejudice.
without
if the
prejudice,
application- if the
because
applicant
I don't
wants to
see the
withdraw it-
utility of this process. And I think these issues need to be resolved in another forum.
I make a motion to accept Jeff's offer.
Request to withdraw without prejudice.
I second that.
That's what you want to do.
Yes.
It's his application.
What do you say?
Okay, aye.
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 I'm an aye as well.
Madam Chair, you'll need to reopen the Cranberry Point
Can we
application.
take a break?
I would, if you would take a motion to deal with the Cranberry Point application
Yeah,
past the
okay,
appointed time.
we are opening the first public hearing. On 275 Quiniquisette.
So, no, I'll wait for you to read the notice. So do you need to read the notice?
Pardon
I think you can just reopen the public hearing, acknowledge that the appointed time that has arrived.
The
Don't
appointed
reread the
time has
notice.
arrived. I reopen the public hearing on Cranberry Point, and I don't have to reread the notice again.
Can we take a break?
Well, wait a minute.
Well, I just,
Well, I have to go to the bathroom. Can
All
we
right,
take
go
a,
ahead.
take a break?
Let's take a break. So you don't want to do like I did.
My only question right now is, what time does Bobby Burns close?
you'd know better than me.
We're far from done here.
Globe's list of the top 10 pubs
Are you
in
gonna
the
withdraw
in the
this?
state.
We could continue.
Let's wait till Mary's back. I'll
Yeah,
have
don't
I'll have
talk
a
about
comment
it.
to make when she reenters the room.
Yeah, okay.
Anybody want to buy a Patriot season ticket?
Is it heavily discounted with the record?
I had one for 20 years, and I'm not sure it's worth any money right now.
Who's going to be the quarterback this?
But they said Zappy's going to start Thursday night, but why won't we get this guy Cunningham a shot?
Yeah, that's what I thought. I heard they were going to give him the shot, but
He's more exciting in failure than they are in
Yeah.
practice. I mean, at least he runs around, he's active.
And with the offensive line, right, that's what they need. They need someone who can escape the
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah.
the only thing that's good is their defense. You know,
Well, they've only given up like 10 points in the last
Yeah,
couple of
I mean,
games, but they can't
they can't score though.
They're the first team in NFL history to give up, I think, less than 6 points in 3 games in
Yeah.
a row and
Yeah.
lose each one of them. It's pretty bad.
You have to wonder where Mr. Belichick's going to be next year, huh?
Yeah.
He didn't seem too apologetic in his
No,
comments.
he's never was, no.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
That's the purpose.
On to unemployment.
he's cashed his checks.
No, some other team would hire him.
Madam Chair, the Cranberry Point public hearing is reopened.
It's reopened.
May I?
Yes.
Also, the reason I felt it was important to get to the discussion on the bedroom issue, and now that that application has been withdrawn, it informs the next steps for Cranberry Point. The board had asked for a modification of the special permit to accommodate the bedrooms because we have found that the bedroom limit in the 87 permit and affirmed in 1991 would prevent you from further modifying the permit. In the absence of a modification increasing the number of bedrooms, I don't know how Cranberry Point can proceed. I would recommend closing the public hearing and voting.
Madam Chair, can we still meet with town council before we close the public hearing? I'd also like to list the documents that we need to put into public record and on the website. May I?
I'm thinking, Mary,
Okay.
we've,
So
the
I,
proponent has withdrawn 853 without prejudice. If we close this public hearing on 275 Quiniquisette,
So I think
We-
Mary is interested in reading the list of documents so the record is complete, so that making an assumption on how I anticipate you would vote on this matter, the record is complete and the decision can be written in accordance with the complete record, so that in the event of an
If-
appeal,
if a
we
proponent
have
brings it back.
we have a solid decision and the record is concise.
That was good.
okay,
may I?
go on.
Read the list, okay. So, and these, I always ask the town planner to put them on the website and make sure that the applicant is notified of that. So that's the application, including plans as amended, correspondence from our board engineer, the special permit for the project dated 1978 as amended. I also have a note that this correspondence from Mr. Tom Fudala, Wendy Williams, Arden Cadron. I'm not sure how many people just came to verbally comment or sent comments, so we need the minutes of March 1st, March 8th, March 29th, all 2023, April 19th, May 3rd, June 7th, June 21st, August 2nd, September 6th, and October 18th on the website. There's also notes from a site visit by planning board members on that was held March 8th, 2023, I believe.
There are minutes for that meeting, actually.
Okay, minutes for the site visit. Then there's the Town of Mashpee Rules and Regulations Governing Subdivision of Land, 2017. Town of Mashpee Special Permit Regulations, 2017. Mass General Law, Chapter 40A. Mashpee Zoning Bylaw, 1985. Mashpee Zoning Bylaw, 2020. And then, again, all the written comments, including from the applicant, the parties that are indicated that they represent the applicant, including but not limited to Mr. Pinto, our board engineer, town council, town planner, town manager, the planning board chair, and LEC.
How long do you think this would take to review all these documents?
Well, I don't need to review them, I just need to put them in a concise format on the website, which will not take much time. We could probably do it before the end of the week,
Okay,
if not early next week.
all right.
And yeah, that's easily accommodated.
Take a motion.
To do what? To continue?
I'll take that direction.
Pardon me?
You need a motion. I'll take that as the direction that is
Okay, but
necessary to
we're-
complete the record
Are
now.
we keeping this 275 Quiniquisette open?
That's the board's decision. But
I'd like to invite town council in so that we can ask him questions.
if I
Jack.
may,
Yes.
I don't see a need to close the hearing. Again, I would caution the board that it is not this board's purview or jurisdiction to determine compliance with zoning. So any attempt to turn this project down based solely on the bedroom count and the alleged violation of that is suspect as a legal matter, in my opinion. Again, I think you should talk to town council.
Thank you. Yeah.
I would say to people as we roll this up, let's review where we came from. We have tried to accommodate, every reasonable request that has been made on this project since day one, including widening the road, splitting the building out. We increased the buffer. I provided you now with modification 15, where this board in 1992 specifically waived the 100-foot buffer, not only up the street, but for the parking lot immediately across from this site. So, it seems sort of arbitrary not to consider that here. To Dennis's point, we are prepared to do more on mitigation relative to the cranberry bogs, if that would get us over the hump with this. But we seem to be sidetracked on issues which, frankly, I can't understand why we're here and why we've spent 6 months discussing these. The bedroom count never had to be a separate modification. Evan and I worked that out because we had a notice issue when the issue came up. This board can certainly address that if it wishes in the context of a final decision. So, but we do have to bring this to a head. And if town council input would help, that's why we reached out to him. Would welcome the opportunity to have that discussion.
He would be discussing with us, not with you, with us. He's our lawyer, and we need to talk to him.
Understood.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the question you said. That's what I want to talk to town council about it.
Okay, so you have the motion, Mary. Motion to keep,
You want to, you might have to go to the
to
public.
continue this,
Public
You have
hearing.
to ask for the public comment.
Any public comment?
oh. No public
There's none.
comment.
Seeing none.
Michael, all right.
Motion to continue the public hearing on 275 Quiniquisette until we have an opportunity to.
No, we have to do time certain.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
we don't know
So
if he's available.
That's
but-
right. And
so
if he's not
Then
available,
we'll change it.
right.
Okay,
I mean,
we'll get a
he obviously
continuance.
didn't know that
Okay,
we were going to.
December 20th
At
at
7:10.
7:10.
So moved.
Madam Chair, you have previously scheduled public hearings at that time.
Do it,
Yeah, Aqua
Wait.
Highlands will be back at that time.
just,
I
let me
would
just
suggest,
check what that might be.
I think it's 7:10 and 7:15. It could be 7:10 and 7:20. I can't recall specifically.
I don't have that draft with me right now.
I
So we'll
am-
say 7:30?
That would be fine.
Okay. Motion to continue 275 Quiniquisette public hearing until December 20th at 7:30
Second.
PM.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Michael, did you second my
Yes.
motion? Okay.
Yeah. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Unanimous.
Now, Rob has to vote because he's seated on
He's-
this matter.
Okay. And
Okay, thank you.
yes, you never missed anything, so, yes, and you say yes, so it's unanimous, including the alternate. Okay, so
Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you
take
in a
care. We'll
couple
see you
weeks.
again.
Okay.
Good night, Jack.
Thank you all. Good night.
Yeah,
Good night.
goodbye.
Okay, we've already voted to set the special joint meeting on Monday, December 18th on the updated housing production plan to review it. I'm looking at new business, raise and replace bylaw discussion and possible vote to invite the ZBA, Concom, and Board of Health to convene a joint session on the subject. And my question for the town planner, would that be next year, or is it getting kind of,
Oh, it would definitely be next year.
Okay, sometime next year.
Ultimately, what I'm suggesting is that we offer an invitation to those three entities to participate in a process to get it right with regard to raise and replace. I think, obviously, I had presented some changes last spring, which required more work. And ultimately, I think it requires more work with the neighborhoods that have been most affected by raise and replaces. With the boards that have a hand in it, notably Conservation Commission, and the Board of Appeals, and certainly the Board of Health has a role as we update our regulations pertaining to IA septic systems, et cetera. And so I don't necessarily have a proposal for you tonight relative to what the process will look like. I merely want consensus from the board that inviting these entities would be beneficial, and together we would come up with a process for community engagement and workshopping a bylaw that is what many would say more consistent with the vision that has been defined through our community engagement efforts around the local comprehensive plan, the hazard mitigation plan, et cetera. And so that's.
I'm confused.
okay,
So-
my question would be, what, in preparation for this meeting, where would we be? Would we have a draft bylaw?
Well, I haven't anticipated, so no. I mean, ultimately, we could certainly start with our last draft. And certainly, just as a matter of background, and the board could offer at that time their issues with that particular proposal. Certainly, I want to start some sort of a campaign or advertising campaign to get the public involved with this discussion, particularly the areas of Papaneset, South Cape Beach Estates, where Dennis lives, actually, in and around Johns Pond, so the older subdivisions with smaller lots that have been particularly impacted by increases in nonconformities on small lots.
Is this a zoning bylaw, or is it a?
This is a zoning bylaw. And so ultimately, my office hears very frequently that people are dissatisfied with the discretion that is afforded the Board of Appeals through the raise and replace process. And so the proposal brought forth last spring tried to put some parameters around determinations of detriment. And I found that those on this board wanted a little bit more in terms of clarity about detriment and expansion of nonconformities, particularly properties that are in or nearby resource areas, particularly in the 100-year floodplain, land subject to coastal storm flow. And so this is one I think requires some process and some time, and that's it. I think this is a discussion that should be had with the three entities I've identified to you on the agenda.
Wait, why wouldn't zoning be the ones to take this up to start, or, I'm just curious? Why we are?
I kind of am going down that path. I kind of think we should talk to, and I thought, I mentioned this, I think we should talk to the petitioners first. I don't understand.
To what?
The petitioners. So there was a citizen's petition, right? It didn't meet the 2/3 vote, but it definitely had majority.
I think that the petitioner
And-
should be participating in this process.
But when you.
They are not regulators.
That's right, that's right. And I like the idea of pulling everybody in that has, kind of influence over these decisions, depending on their jurisdiction. But I really still don't understand exactly the things that the petitioner earmarked as being an issue, and I think we should hear them. I need to kind of understand technically what they're looking for first before introducing more people into the meetings. Because you could have like 20 people around the table talking, and it would be better, I think it would be better if we heard this is coming because of a petition article. I think we should listen to them first and then go forward.
I agree.
I think we should invite them in to talk to us. And I think we have an email from the lead petitioner,
We do.
right?
Yeah, I just think it's an added step in a process. I don't know why we wouldn't invite everybody.
Just because,
Well, it could get into a big nothing, just talking and no action.
Never.
I think we
Okay.
need to, I kind of agree with you, Mary, on that one.
first, just
Oh.
just talk to them first.
Okay, so I guess if that's the case, then I'll just leave it to you.
Let's
You
just
tell
go
me.
back, let's think this out. We know, I mean, we've got Glenn McCarthy's letter here, which is part of the packet. You know, and one thing jumps out, I mean, could talk, you know, in terms of lay terms to people to make them understand. Like, for example, this is in my opinion, this is a good idea. We've got a pre-existing non-conforming, at the side yard, they're sitting at 10 feet instead of 15 feet. Glenn is saying here, I'm okay if you just build a one-story house, but if you build a 2.5-story house that's 35 feet high, and the guy next door to you looks out at a concrete wall,
Yeah.
that's not good.
No, I understand
So
that. I think
that's
that's been
one
made,
thing.
my point is that's been made abundantly clear by Glenn and the co-signers of that
Well,
petition.
you know what?
Over and over again. Why do we need to hear it again?
We do need to hear it again.
You know what? It's so complicated,
That's
Evan. What you wrote, and then town council edited, and your presentation, right? Your PowerPoint presentation? I keep reading it again and again and again, and you'll have to forgive me if it hasn't sunk in yet, you know?
I think, relative to that proposal, I think that needs to go aside. That's not a proposal that's gonna come back.
Yeah.
I didn't get the feeling that was
Yeah.
what's gonna work.
I've been reading it.
I'm sorry.
I've been reading
I mean,
it.
if you guys change your minds, it just, I didn't get the
Why
sense.
wouldn't it
that-
work?
Well, I just feel like it offered too much expansion of footprint. I think we can make it very much more clear with a firmer understanding of, because, we've been getting the feedback from a very small group of people in these neighborhoods. I think the discussion needs to be had more broadly.
Yeah.
I guess I wonder, why isn't zoning taking the lead on
Do you
some
mean
of
the
this?
ZBA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting. Well, and also.
Well, they
the-
did before, and
And-
they blew it.
and-
Because they're now under a court case, because the bylaw they suggested doesn't have the term detrimental to the neighborhood. It just
Neighborhood.
says detrimental. So you know what? I think we should take it on.
But furthermore, I think,
I
the
guess I
planning
wanna
board
ask
is
him
the
what-
land use policy.
I don't have any problem getting involved, but I want to make sure we're not stepping on somebody else's
No.
turf, that's all.
I mean, I really think it is the role of the planning board to adopt zoning regulations that are consistent with the comprehensive plan. That is
That's all I
your
was-
job.
That's all I was asking for.
They are the administrators, more or less, and enforcement agents through the building commissioner of that bylaw, which is why I think they need to be on board here.
Has the petitioner seen what you wrote?
Yes,
And did they say any comments?
I don't recall.
Okay.
It's been months.
'Cause
But I am in
I thought-
regular contact with the petitioner.
I think what you wrote is good.
I think
but
it's close.
I don't understand it if it addresses all of their concerns. Do you know what I mean? So I think we should, if what you wrote, which was then edited by town council to make it, I don't know, more legal, I don't
You
know.
know, if the lay people or maybe the petitioner says, well, we don't want what I just mentioned.
So I guess
Okay, so that's one thing we're gonna put in the bylaw. And think of all the other things about,
my only question tonight is, do you want to meet with the other boards now or later? If it's later, then we have nothing to do and I'll just work on the draft.
later.
I have just had, I have a new role in this town. I've been hearing from the other chairs who are desperate to get involved in
They
this.
want to.
Yes.
Well, maybe out of
Let's
courtesy,
have a
we
meet,
should.
let's see what the petitioner says about what you drafted. Meet with the petitioner and just keep the other chairs updated that that's what we're doing, and then we'll convene. I mean, I have no problem convening with everybody.
I mean, I can go back to that draft and make it consistent with the comments you all provided to me at the last go-through.
Oh, God.
And at least narrow that funnel a little bit and then present it again. I just don't know how you want to work on it.
And
If we don't, yes.
And then Glenn's, can you see if what Glenn's wrote up, would that be addressed by the version as well?
There are a few provisions that I know are of particular interest of the petitioner notably and others in the area, and they are as follows. In projects that are largely or completely in land subject to coastal storm flow, there's a preference to not allow a substantial or any increase in the coverage of a lot or an increase in the footprint of a structure. That's one provision. The other is for projects that have an existing side setback nonconformity. This was what you were getting at, Karen. Allowing the growth, allowing any expansion of the square footage, or excuse me, I gotta go back. For those properties with a side setback nonconformity, say there's 10 where 15 is required, not allowing the vertical growth within that nonconforming setback.
In that non,
So you could go up to the 2 stories, presumably beginning at the side setback line. That is what people are most interested in. Expansion of the footprint and land subject to coastal storm flow and vertical growth within non-conforming setbacks.
Oh.
That's what I understand is
You
the
know,
critical
I mean,
issue.
You
Think
mean
about it.
people, when they redevelop, that's what they want?
Exactly. So for example, often in Papaneset, people will say, you know, my neighbor is 7 feet from the property line, and they haven't extended their nonconformity closer to the property line, but they've gone up to 2.5 stories, and my bedroom window is,
Yes.
you know, so that's, there's a willingness to allow reasonable expansion, but it is the footprint in the floodplain and the growth, the vertical growth within non-conforming setbacks.
All right.
Those are the 2 primary issues that I believe the petitioner would like us to begin working on. And I think we can do that.
Oh,
In
good.
fact, I think we can do that in the existing
Those
draft, but
2.
my point is,
well, why don't
I
you
would-
write a sentence or 2 on that, that this is what you can do under this bylaw?
how about I do this? I reevaluate my last draft, and I make accommodations within that draft that do what I just said, and then we review it together,
Yeah.
and then consider that, and then invite the boards when it's time in consideration of those amendments.
Well, can you send it to the petitioner to get their comment first?
Yes, I will.
Who is the petitioner? I don't know.
I think it's Glenn.
Glenn.
I think it's
I think it was Glenn
McCarthy.
McCarthy.
Of course, we're going to let him
It's Glenn.
look
So,
at it carefully.
I'm okay with that
He-
approach, because I do think I have a good handle on it. I do want to make sure we get it right and move efficiently, but not quickly. You know, take the time as required to get it right this time in consideration of those 2 primary issues. I think there are some ancillary things that we might want to consider as well, but those are the 2 primary issues that have been identified to me over and over again as it pertains to the current bylaw.
It's not easy, is it?
It's not.
I know, but I'm starting to understand the zoning.
Okay.
I really am. It's not, it's like a funky,
It's a twisted logic.
it's twisted
very-
logic,
not-
but it's starting to
It's not
sink
nice,
in.
clean legal writing, you know, it's contorted, and it was done that way for a reason.
That I don't know, but I don't need a motion or a vote from you, but I will take the direction that you would like me to update that draft in accordance with what I've just enumerated. I will try to do that before December 20th, but it's likely not going to be till your first meeting
I
in
think
January.
that's okay.
Okay,
Gonna get my Christmas gift, remember? Don't forget about that.
Can I get a point of clarification?
yes.
Let's say you're going to do exactly what you just said you were going to do.
Yeah.
Update and incorporate whatever petitioners, so forth. We get a new bylaw, and exactly, we're all in agreement on it. The zoning board of appeal can do what with that a new bylaw that was going to close some loopholes that satisfy residents? They can throw it away and approve any changes, right?
Relative to applications to raise and replace or relative?
Right. Applications.
Well, so
ready-made.
if we adopted a bylaw that removed some of the discretion from the deliberative process and ultimately whatever decision would be made,
By the
then
ZBA.
there would be far more clarity relative to the expectation of how they would render decisions. Now, if ignored the bylaw, then the town would be losing many appeals, very likely. So I think there's accountability mechanisms through the, appellate
Well,
process.
I mean, you have existing accountability now, and I've looked at some zoning boards' decisions for approvals to go,
Raise and replace.
and they seem like they're blatantly outside the bylaw current guidelines.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
And I think for the sole reason, and this was why I recommended at the time, my issue with the petitioner's article to repeal raise and replace was that, in my opinion, it didn't substantively alter the discretion that the Board of Appeals has to render written findings about continuing, extending, or alter pre-existing nonconformities. And so often people look at a recent land court decision for a property address as 228 Waiting Place as a means to highlight the egregious nature of the Board of Appeals deliberative process. But the reality is, in my opinion, that decision, there were mostly procedural issues relative to that application, and there were nonconformities on the site that weren't considered. And so the judge more or less concluded that something like a setback to water and wetlands would apply, but if it is in fact found to be a lawful pre-existing nonconformity, it can be continued, extended, or altered. So when the expansions of these footprints occur, or the vertical growth occurs, it is totally and completely within the discretion of the Board of Appeals.
Say that again? When the vertical,
For any pre-existing nonconformity that exists on a site,
yeah,
an applicant can request to continue, extend, or alter it, and that is totally and completely within the discretion of the Board of Appeals to determine the detriment. So the purpose of a raise and replace change would be to remove some of that discretion by specifically prescribing in the bylaw certain actions
You
that
can
are
do, this
detrimental.
you cannot do.
Exactly. So, for example,
sounds good.
if you are in land subject to coastal storm flow, you may raise and replace your home more or less in the same footprint or at the exact same lot coverage it currently has. Or, for example, if you have a side setback nonconformity, you're 5 feet from the property line when 15 is required, you cannot vertically grow within that setback area. You can have a second floor, but it'll be within the conforming setback areas.
You start at a 15-foot.
So it's prescribing exactly what constitutes detriment. And I tried to get there a little bit more in our last amendment, but I think some felt that it just didn't go to the extent that I've just described.
In writing a zoning bylaw, can you ever cite examples as you did in the tree bylaw?
Yep.
Can you do that?
Yeah, of course.
Well, that's what I think you should do, because lay people do not honestly, I've talked to people, they don't understand it.
Right, and the building commissioner, like, we write bylaws, you write bylaws, they go to town meeting, they get approved, and guess who interprets them? The building commissioner, not us, the building commissioner. So with like diagrams and examples, it clarifies that. That's a really, really good suggestion.
But even with diagrams and explanations and examples, they still have the right to overrule us.
No, they don't.
I
If you
mean, so
put-
for example, the planning board, if a special permit is applied for that derogates completely and totally from the purpose and intent of the bylaw, you can vote to approve it, but it would be subject to appeal and you would lose every time.
Yeah.
Okay, so that, it's the.
So of
appeal.
course they could do it, but it would be very unwise to do
Maybe
so.
they do
And
it
sometimes
once,
that
and then they never
happens.
do it again.
Like a board will just keep, nobody's noticing, peep, say yes, and then all of a sudden, somebody appeals.
Yeah.
So can we get the decision on 228 Waiting Place?
Certainly.
Do you have it?
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
And then if I understand right, it went back to, it got
Remanded.
remanded, back to the Board of, the land court said, no, you can't do it, or remanded it, sorry. The land court remanded it back for another decision by the Board of Appeals. They made a certain decision, and that got appealed
Yes.
to Superior Court.
I can't remember exactly where all
So
the
it's
appeals
still
occurred.
all in the court system.
We have to make it simple so that you can't,
There are just, I think, two critical components
Make
that
it
are.
And
clear.
subject to
and
coastal storm
most people do the
flowage.
right thing.
Didn't they say in that opinion?
You're so
that
good,
they
Michael.
never considered, they never cut that out of the calculation?
So in 228 Waiting Place, the board didn't find that that the site had certain pre-existing nonconformities that were clearly nonconforming. So the appellants, people who appealed?
Appellant.
The appellates appealed on the grounds that, in that case, there was an expansion, a lot coverage expansion, that the board didn't consider as a nonconformity. So the judge said, you need to evaluate this and determine whether or not there is indeed an existing nonconformity in that regard, and find whether or not that nonconformity, the replacement, is substantially more detrimental. And that's what they've done. I think that decision was going to appeal. But, yeah, so I have direction on this. I don't need any more.
Great,
I will bring
great.
it back to you as soon as I'm able. And I will
Okay.
communicate with the petitioner of the last article to repeal raise and replace.
All right.
That's great.
Let me,
I'll read this later. I
one
guess.
second here. All right, it's 10 of 9. How long do you anticipate, Mary, your presentation?
It's up to you. Did you guys have a chance to read it? Do you want to look it over till for next time? And I think it was emailed out to you, and the reds are the new things.
But it's not in red.
It didn't get printed out in color, but I just wanted to let you know that I have been involved in 4 different housing plans like this last month. So, of course, the new actions just blossomed because I'm picking up all these new ideas from other people. So it wasn't that they weren't you know what I mean, like something was missing. It's just I've been working with all sorts of housing consultants lately, and that's why there's so many new actions. And of course, once everything's in there, everything can be compressed and pancaked.
Okay,
You know?
so what are you saying? You want to do it tonight?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I think that it's 9 o'clock,
Okay.
and you guys just got this
Just
today.
got it. Okay, so let's do
All right,
that.
so you
So
sent it
we'll
to me
continue
today.
to do
Yeah.
that?
Yes, Karen
from
from the
Karen.
office did. Yeah,
Okay, so you will pass on that till December 20th?
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Who is doing transportation?
They,
Okay, are you prepared tonight?
Evans,
I can relay what we discussed.
I think we got it pretty good, right?
Yeah, so Dennis wanted to talk to me about the implementation table for transportation. We did meet on it, and we actually had a similar comment. But the transportation section, in my opinion, I think, Dennis, you agree, I think is in very good shape relative to the goals, policies, and actions. And so I suggested to Dennis one modified action. And so one of the actions in the transportation section contemplates the utilization of mitigation dollars taken in for a DRI at the address, the property address is 647 Falmouth Road. That was the retail grocery that you had referred to the commission.
Mitigation.
Since that
Yeah.
application has been withdrawn and it's completely and totally unclear whether or not there will be a DRI on it.
That's on the second page of transportation.
No, I'm just looking for
I
transportation.
didn't prepare, I'm sorry.
I'm looking for, it would be nice if these pages were numbered.
You and pagination.
I believe in pagination, yes, I do.
And so I'm referring to,
And these are doubles, they might be doubles, no, it's not. My
I
planning
see
buddy here.
sustainability, which is up front.
I'm just trying to find, I only had one comment and I had one proposed added action. I'm gonna tell you what that is.
That was TC3?
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Dennis. Action TC3 reads currently, consider improving access to and from Deer Crossing from Shellback Way via mitigation monies held as a requirement of any approved retail grocery DRI at 647 Falmouth Road. So
Transportation.
there were a number of intersection improvements in and around Deer Crossing and Shellback Way that were contemplated in the 1998 comprehensive plan. Most of them are, in fact, all of them are actually carried through in this table. This was proposed as an action because at the time, there was a referred project to the commission for a retail grocery at the subject site that would have had an opportunity to implement some of the transportation or intersection improvements that were contemplated in the 1998 plan. However, that project has been withdrawn. It's unclear whether or not it'll be resubmitted. So I think it should just be modified to read. Dennis, did I give you the changes?
Yeah, I,
I didn't have my notes directly with me, so it would be something along the lines of, consider improving access to and from Deer Crossing from Shellback Way via a condition of any special permit issued for a use at the subject site. I can't remember exactly what it is, or for any,
Oh, make it more general?
yeah, it shouldn't be specific to the project.
just so that project,
It
that's
should-
what we're talking
Yeah.
about, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's a special permit sought for the subject site, there should be a condition requiring the improvement of that intersection or a DRI.
Do you have the language in the office?
I will put it in writing and provide it to you.
Okay, so that's TC3.
So TC3, in my opinion, requires that modification, that amendment.
All right, the other one was TC7, about the funding of roads, the private roads. And we were gonna put, unless it was necessary,
Implement a policy to discourage the town acceptance of private road layouts unless it was absolutely necessary for public safety purposes or something like that. I think there's a
Right,
perception
that.
or a feeling that the town has been regularly accepting layouts without consideration of the potential maintenance obligations and costs incurred relative to that. So Dennis was concerned that we have an action that considers public and private road takings. And so I think it was a proposed amendment, a proposed action to have the select board consider modifying their road taking policy.
yeah, because it cost the town, just to do the study, like my neighbor was $80,000. And if we decide not to do the roads, the town's out $80,000.
Oh,
And another thing, I don't want to spend any more money because we got the sewers coming down. Come May, when they come with another override, the people in the town are gonna flip out. I don't want to put no more money on the town. We gotta try to, line item budget things so we have money to spend on these sewer systems.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like fixed income, when we get this bill, a couple of my neighbors started crying, say, I may have to move because I can't afford this. Think about it, my insurance went up, everything goes up, and this sewer thing, we gotta get it
I know.
done. And I don't wanna put that much of a burden on all these
Okay.
people. And every year, the town takes over roads. Catherine has to put on her budget, how am I gonna maintain these?
Yep.
So her
Right.
budget every year goes up 10%, 20%.
There is an action I proposed in here that considers that because I think there's a reality that as town meeting accepts these road layouts, there should be a comparable increase in the town's maintenance budget to take care of the new, linear footage of
Yeah.
pavement that they've accepted. And so we should also include a policy to grant that, like a ratio, like for every linear foot of road taken, X number of dollars are
okay.
added above the level funded operating budget from the previous year, something like that. And then lastly, I just wanted to include as an action, because at the time we initially wrote this wasn't a reality yet, but 209 Old Barnstable Road traffic study. We've initiated the traffic study, we've initiated the consultant. There will be a report outlining a series of actions
Right.
to improve pedestrian amenities and intersection improvements and the general flow of traffic between Great Neck Road North and Old Barnstable Road at Route 151. I'd like to include an action that is merely to implement implement the recommendations of the 209 Old Barnstable Road TIA as feasible and desired, something like that.
Okay, my other thing was a TC5.
Okay.
It wants to connect Mashpee Commons, their main entrance, to go across the street to the new development they want to put there. They come on Great Neck Road South to put a rotary there, right near
Really?
Laurentine. And I don't like that. I
That'd
don't
be
know.
really close to our big rotary,
Yeah,
right?
and I think it'll cause a bigger traffic jam.
I just want to note that that is a carryover from 1998 LCP.
All right.
It contemplates a connector street at the main entrance on 28.
Should we just cross it out then?
I personally think it should be retained.
Oh.
Dennis disagrees, but I'll leave it at that at the board.
I think I need to see a map of that.
Sure, yeah, maybe we show them, it freaked people out, especially Mike, down where we live.
That would be the connector.
But that's their land.
Right, so the action is, if there's any development activity in that area, there should be a connector street constructed.
Remember they were gonna go right,
roundabout here?
There's no roundabout contemplated. This is just saying, in the event of
Although-
additional
Not a
development
roundabout.
activity, there should be a connector street.
So see,
Well,
let's
that
see,
means-
see how this is like a circle, an outer circle of the rotary, right? This is a way to get around the rotary. That would be another way to kind of, but you said that people didn't like it?
no, because you get John Fisher Road with a light, and you go up a little ways, there's gonna be another light, so people can come across the street there, and then you go a little ways further, the rotary. So think about the traffic this summer, there'd be lights coming down.
I'm fine taking it out and letting the developer reapproach us if they come with their master
And
plan.
there should be right turn and left turn only at that.
Yes, well, that's
Coming
been
out of that,
discussed before,
yeah.
yes.
Is that
Definitely.
okay?
Oh, I have no issues.
So
Yeah,
that
I got
was
no
T-
issue. I do understand why the former planning board and the former planner thought that was a good idea as an action. I do think it would make a
So
lot of sense in
remove-
consideration of future development, but it can be reevaluated another time.
Okay, on TC9, I think that's a great idea. I've been asked them to do that, have a transportation.
Bus shelters are pretty expensive. What do they cost now?
$35,000.
Yeah, but.
We had that
we got the
person
Mashpee
who died.
Commons That has.
Because we recently asked a developer to build one in Yarmouth. They're like, it's $35,000. We're like, so what?
And then another T10, I asked, been doing that, establish a hub, transit hub. So you go to Boston or,
Can we make it just a little bit more general instead of Mashpee Commons, Mashpee Rotary? It's a, right, I want there to be a regional transit hub in or around,
You could say the
The
C1 zoning
rotary.
district.
all right, yeah,
You could say in the C1 zoning district.
yeah, okay.
I think it should be around the Rotary. Oh,
Well,
well, if it's, that's a pretty big area if you're walking.
You know?
okay, I got the one right below it, 11. No, I don't want to change the rotary. I like the rotary. I want to put a statue.
Oh, yeah, we already did that. We already said no.
I want to put a statue in the middle of it, to represent
Should we put there that we,
the
so-
Rotten
we,
Orange. That would be dynamite, right?
Oh, you gonna pose for the statue?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
gonna be you,
Definitely.
Dennis. Hey, Dennis, we had a study, right? The Cape Cod Commission recommended retrofitting the
Right.
Rotary.
You're
Should we
right.
replace that with the, okay, so replace, remember that study?
So the reason the action is written in this way is because the community spoke. They did not want to see anything other than essentially restriping the rotary and new signage, which is the retrofit.
Right.
The engineering demonstrated that there was the long-term potential of a modern roundabout would be, I think, a good idea in terms of traffic flow and reducing the amount of land area that's occupied by the rotary. So it was written this way in consideration of reevaluating the long-term potential and the potential benefits of the rotary in the future. But if you just want to leave it, you just leave it.
Yeah, I think the retrofit is enough.
Yeah, just retrofit.
And to tell you the honest truth, it get gnarly in the summer, but the rest of the year, it's fairly okay. And it would cost us so much money locally, because we have to contribute, what, up to 25%?
Right.
And it'd be like $500 million to redo that rotary, and we just don't have the money right
No,
now.
I
So
don't
for
do that.
TC11, it would just work with Mass DOT to implement the Mashpee Rotary retrofit.
All right.
Yes.
That's good.
I just have it's kind of a question. On TC 14, how much money do you really save from electric to gas on these vehicles? And, I mean, I've been hearing a lot of bad things about the electricals.
I could probably give you firm data on that if you allow me to do it.
Yeah, I'd
You know,
like
it's
to know, I mean,
3 years of vehicles, I mean, we only have 4 in the town, but they haven't used gasoline in 3 years.
oh.
So
But-
however many miles traveled
But we're
times the cost
asking
of
to
fuel.
convert more stuff to it, though. That's, like the DPW,
Yeah,
is a truck gonna be electrical?
Yes.
A dump truck?
But it's not only that,
How-
it's the carbon emissions that are
But think of the
reduced.
carbon emission that they're destroying to get these batteries. They wipe out the whole forests and it's horrible. And you think you're saving something and you're destroying over here. That don't make no sense. And they have a lot of problems with these gas things. In the winter times, electric cars, 40% more when it's under 30 degrees. In the summertime, when it's over 80 degrees, they go down like to 50%. You're in your cars for winter time. I can see me being on 128, stuck in a winter snowstorm, have the heat on all of a sudden. What do? You sit there, to a tow truck comes with a
well,
battery?
this isn't a
hybrid.
requirement for all Mashpee residents to get electric cars. This
Okay.
is a suggestion that town vehicles which travel
I
like
just-
15 miles a day
Yeah.
become electrified.
That's
Dennis,
okay.
where the hell did they put all the batteries when they did?
Yeah.
Where are they gonna go?
Yeah, yeah.
That's like, where do we take the sludge?
Guys, you gotta
They
remember.
go to space.
You gotta
That's the only
remember,
place-
this
only place
plan
left.
is reflective of the community engagement we've done.
All right.
These actions are consistent with the engagement that we sought, and there is support for doing this from the community. So I understand your personal opinions on the matter.
Yeah, that's.
However, that is the
that's
reason
what
it's
I said,
there.
was my personal opinion. Okay,
Not only that, but they say countrywide, the electrical chargers are breaking down left and right.
oh, yeah.
High percentage of them aren't even working anymore.
All right,
Well,
so,
Go on YouTube, Mike.
Okay.
In
So
China.
is that it on transportation?
no, I've got a couple of comments.
Killing me, man.
Yeah.
Situation.
So TC 17 is about the Greenway. Yay!
Okay.
So that's good. And to reflect that, going back to policy TC 5, which is on the top of the second page about this, it talks about connectivity between neighborhoods and commercial corridors, and I think that it should be between, we should add connectivity between open space areas,
Okay.
because that's what the Greenway is.
I got that
Yeah.
question mark.
And remember, every action has to go back to a policy, that has to go back to a goal, it has to go back to our vision. Okay, so if you go to TC 4, which is talking about the rotary right here at this intersection.
Yeah.
Of, intersection of 130 and Great Neck Road North, I go through that at least twice a day, every day. I think if we just did a study of the lighting, the timing of the lights, and retrofit it so that when you're coming from like the Route 28 or South Sandwich direction, you see when you get near the convenience store, people go in 2 lanes,
Right.
right? If we could study if that could be done instead, because rotaries are very expensive, and I think that so when I'm coming from where I live, right?
Right.
Like the soccer fields, right? And I come down and I stop at that light is timed so short that when people are taking a left in front of me to take a left, coming this way, take a left onto Great Neck Road North, only 4 cars get through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Only
I
4.
get stuck in South Hampshire.
What if we had 8 cars go through? I don't think we need the rotary if you just,
Shine the light.
right? And if you put a rotary in, now you say, oh, well, then Mary going this way is gonna get stuck. Well, you put the rotary in,
I'm gonna get stuck anyway.
Oh, yeah.
It doubles my time to get through so my time's gonna get doubled anyways.
So this action is written in consideration of a few things. The roundabout that is contemplated is from the 1998 plan, and the DPW is in the design process of this right now. And so I think I recognize and others recognize that maybe a roundabout may or may not be the most advantageous intersection solution or intervention for that intersection. So I wanted to be considerate in the action of what's currently happening in the design of the roundabout and have us consider alternative design options.
Alternative.
Can you check with DPW director right away about that?
Sure.
Because I really think we could save a ton of money. I know that the area would have to be expanded a little bit, and new lights would have to go in, and you know, with new lights, the state does all sorts of studies.
The lights need to
but
be timed better on 28 as well.
Where do you
should
want to
not-
put that in?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a general thing. Assess the town traffic lights and to see if they can be synced, because I know in Florida, where I used to live, I could go all the way down Federal Highway to my office.
Well, dang, they get a lot of, they love large, wide highways and strip malls down there.
That's true, but, you
It's
know-
like, don't walk down the street.
Right.
No, you might get killed.
Don't go by Bob Evans at 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. You're gonna do sustainability?
So I reviewed sustainability. I have no I mean, to be fair, I did write almost all of this. I can't, there were a few obvious things in transportation. I reviewed Mary's housing edits, and
Oh, I have
I
another
understand
comment,
many of
Madam
them.
Chair, hold on.
But I don't have any suggested edits to the sustainability
Wait, I
chapter.
still have a comment.
Well, we've gotta move
Well,
on.
this is our plan. I get to say, I wasn't done. TC 11, you talk about consolidate and reduce the number of curb cuts along Route 28 and 151. Just add with internal circulation roads.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
You know, if it's too late, then maybe we should adjourn. I don't know. These are
Okay,
important comments.
The only thing I have on, do we have an engineer report? Ed? Is there any other engineer report?
Yes,
Okay,
can you hear me?
yes,
Yeah,
we can.
Yeah.
Okay, I made a few notes while you were all deliberating. On November 16th, the last time we talked about an engineer report, I met with representatives from New Seabury, specifically Nick Galenas, to go over three projects that had not had a release of their surety amounts, and wanted to go over what was left to be done on each project, and we were in full agreement on all three of them. So let me tell you what they are. So one is a project I've never seen before that was virtually completed 10 years ago that they never requested release of the surety funds. It's a project called the Fairway Homes at Seaside. A portion of that neighborhood constructed several years ago. There was actually a pool house being constructed on one of the properties, but everything else is completed. So we did a site walk at that site, determined a couple of things that were deficient. We went to the cottages at phase 3, which I did review for the board a few months ago. There was a question about the topography in the buildings, some drainage around the buildings, if you recall. All that construction has been completed for some time, but there were a couple of small items that need to be taken care of. Outlets, specifically outlet elbows at catch basins to help trap floatable debris in a catch basin as the catch basin systems are designed to do. And finally, we went to look at the phase 4, or what they're calling now Aquay Village, cottages at Aquay Village. So the New Seabury Cottages phase 4, which is closest to the entrance, just to give everybody a feel for what we're talking about. And we looked at that with some final paving, some base course paving that was planned at the cul-de-sac end of the site. And we talked about the various things that are needed, that are still needed there, from as-built plan to final landscaping and so on. So Nick was going to get back in writing to Evan a list he said once he got these punch list items corrected, he would let me know so I could re-inspect it. Haven't heard from him since, so I know they're working on it. But that went fairly well, so they can close out a couple of projects, or at least get some of their monies returned. There's, just so you understand, the bonds for these projects are basically almost $3 million. So they'd like to get some of those monies returned, especially for projects that are almost complete or are virtually complete. The next area we looked at since our last discussion was Country Club Estates, Phase 2 roadway work. Last week, believe it or not, it was last week. It wasn't before Thanksgiving, it was just after Thanksgiving. They conducted base course paving operations. Prior to that, we've done several inspections this month to look at the base course gravel thickness and width, and final compaction testing before the paving was set down. So we did all of that, everything passed, and the paving was completed last Wednesday, the base course paving only. So the infrastructure is in, the infrastructure in terms of piping for the electric, the water and drainage systems are in for that next phase of effort. So we'll be looking to get, back with them in the coming weeks, or I should say coming months, when they start to bring a lot of the coverage to grade that were covered. Some of them were covered, but most of them are at grade, but catch basins and so on. We'll take a look at that. We want to make sure that they're managing the erosion controls around all the catch basins. Lastly, really not something for the planning board, but I wanted to be made you aware that we have been involved in two projects for the zoning board. One was 40 Evergreen Circle off of 130. They did some final paving at a commercial condominium building for Pastore Construction. That's the applicant in the business that'll be there. And we also reviewed a project at 50 Evergreen Circle, also a commercial condominium building, basically a contractor, overhead door, contractor bay area that Pastore Construction is also planning to build. So another commercial contractor building right in the same area. And that's all I have.
I like that Evergreen Circle. That was a good subdivision.
He said the bond is 3 million. What one?
There are two separate bonds.
There's three separate bonds. The Fairway Homes was $422,000. Cottages Phase 3 was about $1 million. And Cottages Phase 4 was 1.4.
Okay.
So.
Do we have to act on those now?
3 million.
That comes up to 3 million?
No, they're not. They haven't submitted the documentation we require,
Something.
Okay,
and nor formally made the request to have it released.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Evan, you haven't received any formal request for anything yet, right?
Correct. I haven't heard from Nick.
Okay.
Not since I connected
Yeah,
you with them.
We were in complete agreement on what was left to be done. There was no issue there at all.
Sounds good.
And we can't wait.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah,
Okay.
I understand. I did brief Evan right after that meeting, right after that inspection. I came to the office, we went over a few things to explain that, so we're in good shape.
Okay. Okay, the water quality issue, I guess the only thing I can say right now is we had 12,900 registered voters for the planning and design of wastewater collection treatment on November 28th special election. And we had 1,070 people voted yes, 308 people voted no, and 2 people left it blank. So the total is 10.67% of total registered voters voted in the special election.
Wasn't there only one question on the ballot?
Yes.
There's one question.
Only one question.
Who leaves it blank?
So they went, they left it blank.
Maybe they, well,
Isn't that weird?
but that's a huge turnout.
I think we know that people did not understand
It
it.
was kind of silly.
That's a
You
huge
figure you just like
turnout.
don't turn in your
Yeah.
ballot.
It's an off-cycle election,
They get
one
checked
question,
off as voted.
huge, that's almost 11%, that's a huge turnout, so we should be proud of
Yeah.
that. I think the postcards from Debbie worked. she put out a postcard to every
Yeah.
voting household. I think it worked.
Town planners report on harbor management committee,
Harbor management, we met
harbor.
last month, a couple weeks ago. The plan is well into development. We're more or less at the closure of year one of that process. And if I remember correctly, the consultant had indicated like something like 75% completion of many of the chapters. There's still another year in this process. But we're kind of at that point now, I think, where the work is being done and the committee is a little bit less involved. Dale, have you done anything
A little bit
lately?
less.
I've been kind of at the periphery now.
Yeah, less involved. There was another public information session at the Mashpee Village,
Oh, that's right.
and it was a low turnout, but some good information was received from the folks that attended. I met with the tribe's elders council I requested that we use one of their, they have these sessions called Lunch and Learn where they eat lunch and they learn the language, and a lot of the community shows up, as we do, and we're gonna use one of those sessions for the tribe's public information gathering session, after the holidays, so in the 2 weeks after the holidays. And then that will, I believe, satisfy all of their requirements for public information.
Well, that's a good idea.
Housing production plan update.
I don't have much else to offer beyond what we've already covered.
Starting to look good, don't you
Okay.
think?
Yeah, I think Barrett is a top-notch
We're so
consultant. I'm really, really happy working with them. Again, the plan's in development. There are some outstanding stakeholder interviews. Lynn, I will talk to Alexis for you. The Affordable Housing Committee is going to meet again.
Tuesday.
I think it's upcoming on Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
And so we're getting very near completion of the final components of the plan, to the point where we're gonna put it together. You and the select board would be and the Affordable Housing Committee would be among the first people to begin consuming that plan. So as soon as I have it in its completed form, you will have it.
Okay. The board members, committee reports. Commission, Cape Cod Commission.
So, they're working on a housing plan as well. And, I found their design guidelines. Remember, we were starting to talk about form-based code, and maybe we introduce architectural guidelines and site design guidelines, so I found them.
Nice.
I found them online, and, I'll give them to you, so that you can look at them before we do the housing chapter of the LCP.
Charter review.
I think they meet, I want to say the 17th, the Charter Review Committee, and that's all my report. At this point, we did have a lot of public comment at our last meeting. The very first part of the charter is the preamble, and we're still stuck. I don't know when we're gonna get through the whole thing. But there was public comment that, yes, people wanted a preamble that recognized the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, that was appropriate. When you compare it to other preambles, it's very different. But that's because we're a different kind of town. We have a federally recognized tribe, and that was not kind of in the charter, but now it's federally recognized, so it's an easier insert. So that's where we are.
Community preservation.
Community Preservation Committee.
Next week.
We meet next week on Thursday. Do we have new applications? Yes.
We have a couple.
So we're reviewing the same applications that I gave you guys. Yep. And, yep,
Okay.
that's it. Thank you, Lynn.
No design review information, no meeting. Plan review, no
No
plan
meeting.
review. Environmental Oversight Committee,
Yes, there was a meeting that was canceled and uncanceled, and I was there this time, so. Evan was there too.
I was there.
He was there. He talked about his new position as the Community Development Coordinator. So
Director, CDD.
CDD. CDs, yep. He has a lot more responsibilities. Good for him. Good for you, Evan. What else? Alexandra Zolo, she was officially appointed to the EOC. She also nominated herself to be vice president. So we're still working on the infrastructure of the EOC and our mission statement and our vision and goals. What else we had? We talked about forming a land acquisition committee. Open space and recreation plans needed first to start the conversations. What else here? We got updates on the town's DNR. They're actually working with us, the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe's Natural Resource Department, on the next round of funding for the MVP funding from the state. What else we got? Yeah, that's pretty much it. And our next meeting is December 11th. And we'll go from there.
Thank you. Historic District Commission?
We had no meeting, but we also have a new member on board. Is that right, Evan?
They haven't been appointed yet, so the commission met, you interviewed 2 candidates
Right.
who were recommended for approval. And then the following week, the select board changed their appointment policy. And I have not been able to convene a quorum of the commissioners to fill out the paperwork that is now required
Wow.
to bring them forth. It's infuriating to me, but nonetheless, we're gonna get it done, Dennis.
And another thing I want to say, we lost a really wonderful person to represent Mashpee well, this Earl.
Yeah.
And I'd like to, Evan, remember I talked to you about
Yes,
Kevin
indeed.
Black or,
To be clear, Earl has just moved in with his daughter in Falmouth.
yeah.
And so he's not in his house on Main Street any longer, so.
Yeah.
So what is the change, that you have to have a quorum available to vote or not?
Well, it's not even that I could have the paperwork filled out. Dennis has done it,
Yeah.
but I haven't had every member who voted on those interviews come into my office as requested to complete the documents. It has been since August. So I'm just trying to put it all together so that they can go to the select board and be appointed and we can have a full
Yeah.
commission again.
Yeah,
That's it for me now.
okay.
The Historic District Commission's the thorn in my side of all the commissions I have to do.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? How do you vote?
Yes.
Yes?
Xerox
Yes.
this, and then
Yes,
you can
yes.
use